All right, welcome back guys to Splash Mash Dash. I want to talk about the Kerrville Quarter Triathlon that I just finished up yesterday. Overall, I felt really good about my performance. For those of you who know me or are following me on Splash Mash Dash, I just started triathlon this year. This is only my second triathlon that I've competed in. The first one was a super sprint, the Windcrest Super Sprint Triathlon. And this one is the Kerrville Quarter Triathlon. So this is the longest distance that I've completed so far. So what it consisted of was a 1,000-meter swim, a 29-mile bike, and a 6.5-mile run, I believe. So just to give you an idea, I'm looking at my sticky notes here. My total time was 3 hours, 5 minutes, and 54 seconds. And then out of all the males, I came in at 109 out of 202. And I believe there were like 390 participants in the race this year. And I was like right at, I think like, I don't know, 180. I think the average time was like 3:08. So I was a little bit faster than the average person competing this year. So I feel really good about that because, you know, I've only been doing triathlon training since March or April, 6 months, half a year. And I'm already average. I'm average triathlete. And I feel good about that because my background, I'm not a swimmer, I'm not a cyclist. I was in the Army for 7 years and they just were like, hey, you run over there. You know, they don't teach you how to run. They just tell you to run. Just to back up for a second, Sunday was the race. Saturday was the sprint triathlon, which is a shorter distance, of course, and pre-packet pickup for the quarter and half distance, as well as you could take advantage of a kind of like an open swim practice hour from 4 to 5:30, I believe. On Saturday, on packet pickup day, I kept calling it pre-packet pickup day. On packet pickup day, you had to drop off your bike at T1 and then drive over to T2 and drop off your run bag. Got my packet with my race bib, my race numbers and stickers that go on your bike. Then you can take advantage of like a swim practice like I was saying earlier, and I did that. I wanted to get some of my jitters out before the race the next morning. And no, it didn't get any jitters out whatsoever. In fact, it made me lose some confidence. I got in the water. It was cold, but 30 seconds into the swim, you know, I started getting into my stride, kind of turning my hips and working on my technique. And then it just dawned on me, oh my God, Matt, you're doing your first open water swim without a swim buoy. And for those of you who don't know what a swim buoy is, it's pretty much like an adult floaty that is tethered to a belt that floats behind you when you swim. And I started to kind of freak out in the water. My chest got tense. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't inhale, fill up my lungs. I was short of breath, and I had to, go resort to breaststroking, and then that wasn't working. I had to go and do backstroke. It was just ugly. I think that day I only swam 500 meters, and that took me, oh my gosh, I think that took me like 20 minutes. It was horrible. And if you don't complete the swim in, I think it's like 39 minutes, you're disqualified. You're done. Your race is pretty much over. Oh, and then the other thing, the water. Going into the water, it was fine. To kind of just give you an idea, the course that they had laid out for swim practice was the sprint triathlon course, which is just a short little square. So the river runs this way, and when you made that first left, you were going against the current and the water was choppy. It wasn't like really bad, but it was bad enough to where you couldn't stick your head down very low because it would just crest over your head. I was a little bit worried about that. But next morning, I got to T1 station and dropped off my bike gear I had to wait about, I think like 2 hours for my race to start. Well, let me back up. My first triathlon was a super sprint, which is a very short distance, a super sprint triathlon. And this being my second was a quarter triathlon or Olympic triathlon. I was a little bit worried about the open water swimming because leading up to the Windcrest Super Sprint Triathlon, I had done zero open water swims. I knew I could do a triathlon, but I didn't know if I could do an open water swim triathlon. And Coach Bree, my coach at Alamo 180, my triathlon team here in San Antonio, she reassured me. She was like, Matt, you've got the stamina, you got the endurance to do the distance. You just gotta get comfortable with doing open water swims in lakes or rivers. So that took a little bit of time to kind of get comfortable and gain some confidence in swimming out at like Bernie Lake, which is where we do a lot of our open water swim training. As time went on, I was getting more confident. And it wasn't until maybe about middle of August, where I was like, I got this. So I was trying to reassure myself that feeling, even though I had a really bad swim practice Saturday, the day prior to the race. I was like, okay, I know what to expect. I know what's coming. Just get ready for some choppy water. There's gonna be a current. I get in the water and I felt good, I had my buddy Daniel Espinosa. He was on the Rookie to Race program with me, and at Alamo 180, we both attended that race program. I'm kind of like talking to him, trying to calm his nerves down because I could tell he's feeling real antsy about doing this race. And he's like, so talking to him helped calm me down because I was feeling a little anxious too myself. I'm telling him, just enjoy the race, have fun, and just relax in the water. It'll be fine. I'm telling him that, but I'm also telling that to myself. Get in the water. I feel great. I'm focusing on my technique. Make that first turn into the current where the water starts to get choppy right in your face. I'm doing great. I'm not doing any breaststrokes. I'm not going on my back at all. I swung the first turn a little bit wide because I wasn't really confident that I was going to be able to keep speed. I didn't want people, swimming over the top of me. But I only did that for maybe, 15, 20 seconds where I swung wide. And then I looked to my left while I was swimming and I realized I was keeping up with everyone. So I started to swim back in closer to all the little buoys or markers that are in the river. I feel good. I'm going through the water, no problem whatsoever. My breathing is going good. Working on my hips, trying to work on stretching out and gliding a little bit longer, like Coach Bree said. And then I make the next turn. You got to swim that for maybe a few minutes. And then you got the turn going right back to where you started. And that's whenever you got the current going with you. I started to realize I was passing people. And now my problem was being close to the buoys and tapping people's toes and trying to swim around them. And, I had people I'd tap their toe and they'd just immediately just stop swimming. They'd freak out and then throw me off, and then I'd have to swim around all of a sudden. So this was all kind of new to me because I've never really had that happen before. So get out of the water, and then out of the water you got to run up this big hill. It's a pretty big steep hill. Get up there to the top, get on the bike, and I felt good. I feel like I had a boost to my self-esteem that okay, I got the swim done. That's usually everyone's worst fear is the swim. And get on the bike and pedaling off. The first half of the bike course is all downhill. I'm just trying and stay as aero as possible. I've got my road bike over there. I still don't have a tri bike yet. I'm trying to keep my chest as low as possible to cut down on all the wind resistance that my upper body's creating. And in doing so, I realized that I was wearing out my back muscles. My back started to get a little stiff on me. So I made sure that every single time I got to the crest of a hill, I'd stand up on my pedals and kick it for a little bit and try and build up some momentum going over the hill. That way, one, it could help out stretch my back muscles. Two, flush out all that lactic acid in my legs. And three, kind of like help me on my overall speed on the bike course. Well, in doing so, I realized that I was, in doing so and keeping that aero position, I realized that my hip flexors were wearing out a little bit faster than what I'm accustomed to on bike rides. And I was doing fine. My goal was to stay around 220 watts. I was doing great up until, like I said, about halfway through the course, whenever it started going uphill. I was doing all right at managing it up until that point, and then that's when it started dipping down to around 200, 210, sometimes even like 190. And, I knew that it was either I needed to sit up more and put my hands on the hoods and save my back and my hips, or stay aero, sacrifice my hip muscles, my hip flexors, and just kind of like suck it up and then kind of sacrifice some of my run. I think that I maybe cut back maybe 25% and stayed up on the hoods. In retrospect, I think I should have just gotten up on the hoods and stayed there to save my hip flexors, because after finishing the bike, my legs were a little bit worn out than I wanted them to be. So that's what happened on the bike to run. On the run, the T2 station, I decided to pack some extra socks. So on the first race, I used one pair of socks, the same socks that I rode my bike on, or the same socks that I ran with. This time I knew that my feet were probably a little bit damp. I was a little bit more precautious when it came to blisters this time, because my second toe on my left foot, it has a tendency to blister up. So I wanted to put big cushion dry socks on. Took a little bit extra time doing that, drying off my feet, putting on the socks, getting going. I probably needed to practice my T2 transition a little bit more to speed that up. Let's see, where do I start on the run? The run, I think my goal time was a little bit out of my reach. I wanted to average a 9:30 minute mile time, and I was just too tired. I think mile 1, mile 2, it was like 8:56, 8:54, and then I could feel it. I could feel my legs, the strength kind of just go away. It was gone. I slowed it down to, I think, like a 9:50, and then like a 10:30, and then I just lost all the strength in my legs. I had to walk quite a lot. I don't know how many times. So definitely a lot of room for improvement when it comes to the run. It's kind of weird because on my first Windcrest try, the bike was my strongest, and then the second was the run, and then the last strongest event, the worst event, was the swim. Now it's the bike, the swim, and the run. I guess I feel good about that because I've improved a lot on my swimming, but I need to focus more on my running. So that's what I know to do for the off season now that the race season's over. Let's see, things to take away from this race. I kicked ass at swimming. Not super great, but lots of improvement made there. The bike, feel really good about the bike. Let's see, things that I need to do. One, find a bag of money and buy a tri-bike. But more than likely, what I'm probably gonna do is I'm gonna buy, for the next race, an aero helmet, some carbon wheels, and maybe some aero bars. Let's see, and then the run, I already went over the run, do some strength training, work on my speed, work on my endurance. Yeah, feel really good. And of course, they handed me this snazzy little medal at the end. Just want to show you guys. It's a little country bumpkin town, so it's actually a actual belt buckle. So I think you can actually take this bad boy off of this and wear it as a functional belt buckle. So that's pretty cool. So that's about it, guys, for my post-race commentary. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe so you get notified for new videos. I've got some plans for more tutorials, some more product reviews, things like that. So make sure you subscribe, and thanks so much for your support. All right, guys, until next time.